Bradford Doulas is a universal service, so we essentially support all women. We work really closely with maternity services, with voluntary sector statutory organisations across the city, in order for them to kind of recognise perhaps the women that they're supporting, the families that they're already working with. Perhaps they need that additional hand-holding support during pregnancy. We're not here to replace your partner or your sister or your friend. We're an additional support service. We can bring your family members in and kind of really trying to advocate in areas where perhaps at a point where women can no longer advocate for themselves. And that's really, really important.
Evidence shows that having support from a doula improves outcomes for both the mother and the baby. So this project means that the women who need it most, often the most vulnerable women in society, have access to this service.
All those women who have language barriers, all those women who have no access to other facilities, which generally we might all be having. So when we provide this service to all those ethnicity, all those minorities groups or Asian families or Black families, I feel that we are trying to make Bradford a better place to live for our future generation.
The project is aimed at young people aged between 9 and 13, that's primary and secondary schools. The work that we do, the interventions that we do, we set up nurture groups of 10 or more people, and we also do one-to-one sessions with the young people in schools. All the people that are selected from the schools have shown some sort of signs of social, emotional and mental health within their schools. We're providing young people with the skills and reducing the stigma around social, emotional and mental health, and this will help them access services in the future and build their self-worth. We've seen some amazing impact. And one of the case studies, we had one person with real anger issues who now is really a great part of the class. He's made friendships. He's also been given responsibility to coach other younger people. And this is the sort of benefits and impact that we've seen.
We work with young people aged 9 to 19 across the central Bradford area. They need to be accessed in school, college or a GP within that area. And it's really important because we want to help young people be less lonely and isolated, more confident and able to access social activities and social support and become more connected to their communities. Often the young people think they're the only one going through a certain feeling or emotion, and so they've said that by meeting other young people and being able to express themselves in art or in an outdoor activity really makes them feel better equipped to sort of deal with their ongoing anxieties.
I am an advanced nurse practitioner by background, and I am involved in the Asylum Seeker Clicks programme at Bevan Healthcare. So I accept referrals from a number of healthcare professionals and non-healthcare professionals, including the GPs at the surgery, for newly arrived asylum seekers and asylum seekers with complex multiple physical and mental health problems and social care problems. And the beauty of the programme is that I can spend a lot longer with individuals with complex needs than the usual 15-20 minutes that a GP appointment lasts for. I've had some really complex individuals in my clinic, and it's been nice to build a good rapport with individuals over a longer period of time. I've managed to highlight and start to address some really chronic, deep-seated issues that have never really been tackled head-on, partly because of the lack of time that individual clinicians have, but partly because of the lack of continuity that healthcare can often provide in any setting. It's been really rewarding for me as a clinician, but I think it's been really it's been really needed by the clients that we've been seeing, and we've had some really good feedback that people are being listened to, and the problems are being addressed after such a long time.
What we find is where people are missing out on welfare advice, it directly impacts on their health. It impacts on their sleep. It impacts on their stress levels. It causes worry, anxiety, chronic health issues, and as time goes by, the financial hardship that they're in and the poverty, the deprivation that they're living in, actually with time that worsens. The service is really important to help bring about a change in that and help them get out of that spiral and bring about improvements in health.
Traditionally, there is a lower uptake of people accessing psychological therapies and talking therapies on a range of different mental health issues. This project takes into account Muslim values and the faith values that aren't always considered in traditional traditional services, and this can really help to treat depression for Muslim communities and helping them with their well-being. What we want this project to do is to recognise those behaviour patterns and to break that cycle and help people along on their way to better well-being and better health. Black and Asian minority ethnic communities are much more likely to experience a mental health issue but less likely to access help, and so being able to offer a therapy which takes into account cultural values, religious and spiritual values, but in the wider context can really help close that gap.
We find that the patients that we deal with within the proactive care team often have a much greater health need than perhaps the general population within the Bradford area. Significant issues around patients being within a lower socioeconomic group, and often those associated barriers that come with that, be they financial, language barriers, cultural barriers. And we find also on the back of the greater healthcare need that people often succumb to earlier development of chronic comorbidities, which are often relatively complex for most services to manage. So what we've found already since we were operational in September is that we've had some very positive outcomes in relation to people understanding where they can go to ask for help or to source or resource that help, be that an appropriate use of a GP, an appropriate use of the accident and emergency service or the ambulance service, for example. And certainly we've been able to move people on so they're now being more case managed more effectively, for example, by the community matron service, or they've had other disciplines or other mainstream services that have swung into action to support them to keep them well and safe at home.
The aim of this project is to support individuals approaching end of life. We aim to provide social support for the individual and any family or carers that may require that support too. One success experienced by the end of life team is supporting an individual to get back in touch with old friends and family who they'd previously lost contact with. This has brought newer friendships into their life, has given them a reason to smile, are reminiscing about more pleasant times they've had in the past, and just giving them that renewed friendship and bond with individuals. The way we aim to reduce inequalities for people approaching end of life is to ensure everybody has access to the same services, the same support, wherever they're located within the city.